What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is a video review of the Nerf Ultra 5. The Ultra 5 is a spring-powered pistol with an internal magazine holding 4 darts. It's very similar to the Mega Magnus. Interesting, unique blaster. Let's get into the review. Included is the blaster itself, 4 Ultra darts, and the instructions. External overview of the Ultra 5, starting up at the front. There is no in-strike barrel lug. This is not an in-strike blaster, it's an Ultra blaster. Above that is the front iron sight, which corresponds with the rear iron sights. And up on the top of the slide, we have an in-strike tactical rail. Keep in mind, if you put an optic up there, it makes priming the blaster much more difficult. But it's great to have that option if you want to put an optic up there for the enhanced accuracy. And when you prime back the blaster, you reveal the coolest part of this blaster, the internal magazine. It features a 4-round internal magazine. You can see where the darts go from the side right here. And to load, you push them through these little flaps and down into the magazine. It's very similar to the Mega Magnus. However, loading the Ultra 5 is more difficult than the Mega Magnus. I find it easy to slide darts into that. With this, it's more tight. It doesn't seem like there's as much clearance from the front back. It feels like it needs to be like a 1/4 inch bigger because it feels kind of crammed and it's not easy to shove them in. The tightness doesn't cause jams or anything. It's just a little more tricky. You have to pay a little bit more attention to loading in order to load quickly. Compared to the Mega Magnus, it would be much easier to have my eyes up looking at somebody shooting at me as I'm loading. But you just shove them in there and the internal magazine holds 4 Ultra darts. After you have that loaded up, you shut the slide and you're ready to fire. The slide's prime action is very smooth. I quite like it. The draw weight of the slide is heavier than the Nerf Elite standard, but this blaster's shooting harder than Elite blasters, so that makes sense. A stronger spring requires more priming force, but it's a very smooth action. And on the left-hand side of the blaster, there's an unjamming button. After you prime this blaster, you're not able to prime it again. Holding this allows you to override that lock. I did not experience any jams or malfunctions with this blaster, but it's there just in case. Down to the trigger release is pretty standard. This blaster does not have slam fire. However, the shape of the trigger is, in my opinion, kind of uncomfortable. It's just very tight and it's a lot of pressure into the pad of my finger. It's a little sharp here. It's not going to make you bleed or anything, but after you shoot this blaster a few hundred times, your finger's going to be uncomfortable. Now down to the grip. This is in line with all the other Ultra blasters. If you like how Ultra blasters feel, you're probably going to like this one too. But if you have a regular human hand, you're probably going to hate it, just like all the other Ultra blasters. These Ultra grips are wonky, man. Might just be me, but I find them incredibly uncomfortable. And this one is no exception, especially with this yellow piece up here. It's kind of like brass knuckles for your fingers. It forces and controls where your fingers land on the grip, which is pretty cool if it happens to be perfectly made for your hand, but it's only going to be perfectly made for like 4% of the population, and everybody else, including myself, is going to get super annoyed with this grip. After shooting it just a couple hundred times, I got infuriated. I will not be using this blaster because of this incredibly uncomfortable grip and trigger system. But in my opinion, if you have a smaller hand, if you are not an adult, this might be more comfortable for you. If you're an adult, I think this would be very uncomfortable, almost universally for everybody over the age of 18. But on the plus side, if you ever just want to walk up to a zombie and pop them in the face, pretending these are brass knuckles, you can do that now. That's a joke. Please don't hit anybody. That's plastic. That'll hurt. And finishing the overview, there's a sling mount down here. That's an external overview of the Ultra 5. Let's see it fire. Operating the Ultra 5 went pretty well. I did not experience any jams or malfunctions with this blaster. Like I mentioned, loading this blaster is a little more cumbersome, a little bit more difficult than it should be. I think if they open this breech up just another 1/4 inch, it would help a lot. So it's a little tight, but it works, and I did not experience any jams or malfunctions while operating this blaster. To compare the Ultra 5 to other Ultra blasters, I put it up on my chronograph, and I achieved an average velocity of 99 feet per second with Nerf Ultra darts, which is the fastest shooting Ultra blaster that I've measured. The Ultra 1 was 75 FPS, the Ultra 2 was 92 FPS, and the Ultra 4 was 96 FPS. I'm still not sure what the Ultra average is going to be. It might end up being about 90 to 100 FPS, with the Ultra 1 being an outlier, even though it was first. But we won't know until we have a few more Ultra blasters to test. But so far, this is the hardest shooting Ultra blaster out there that I've measured. And if you notice, the firing trajectory is much more consistent than the Ultra 1 and Ultra 2. I think it's because it's a spring blaster. Maybe these new Ultra darts just don't feed very well through flywheels. I think that might be it. I don't know. Because the Ultra 5 and the Ultra 4, both spring-powered blasters, shoot relatively consistently and relatively accurately. accurately. In my opinion, the Ultra 4 and the Ultra 5, this blaster, are both more accurate than most Nerf Elite blasters shooting Nerf Elite darts. Of course, if you shoot waffle head darts, that changes a little bit, but this is more accurate than the Ultra 1 and Ultra 2. So, very fast muzzle velocity at 99 FPS, no jams or malfunctions, and a very smooth prime action. That's the objective information I can provide. Now to my personal opinion on the Ultra 5. I personally will not be using this blaster in any war because of the grip, and especially because of this yellow thing here. It makes the grip very uncomfortable. This trigger is designed differently than the other Ultra triggers, and it's also uncomfortable. But I'm pretty picky when it comes to grips. I think a lot of people are going to really hate this yellow thing unless your hand happens to fit perfectly, but the trigger complaint's going to be hit and miss. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. But pretty fast muzzle velocity, and the prime action is also very smooth, and I did not experience jams and malfunctions. The purchase decision still, in my opinion, comes down to the Ultra series, not so much the Ultra 5 in particular. It's an okay blaster, but it's too big to fit into a holster, so I personally don't have a place for this platform even if the grip were built better. But if you want an Ultra blaster to plink around and you don't want a single shot blaster, the Ultra 4, I think this is a solid buy to get your feet wet in the Ultra series. Both the 4 and the 5 are sort of worth buying. In my opinion, the Ultra 1 and the Ultra 2 really shouldn't be purchased by anybody. They're uncomfortable, they don't work very well, and I just don't see a place for them. But the Ultra 5 shoots hard, 99 FPS. If you want to carry this maybe on a sling or something, you can outgun someone shooting a Nerf Elite dart at you, assuming they aren't a modder or shooting a dart zone blaster. But if you can use an Ultra blaster in your Nerf wars and you're not allowed to use a rival blaster, I think that's where these blasters are going to really shine. But I won't be using this blaster because this is a very uncomfortable grip. It's not a fun blaster to use after you shoot it a few hundred times. But you guys know me, I'm pretty picky about grips, but the performance out of the Ultra 5 is pretty solid relative to the Ultra 1 and 2, which were just total trash. So there's my pretty mixed opinion on the Ultra 5. If you're interested in purchasing one of these, I'll put a buy link in the description below. That concludes this video review. Thanks so much for watching, bros, and as always, stay tactical.